Okay, guys, here we are. I got feedback. Hold on. Knew I forgot something, but that's okay. Picture and sound. Good. No more breaking up now. We fixed that problem. And like you can see now, you have Mr. Mike Clark here. And it's very nice of him to be here today and give up his time to try and help everybody understand his approaches and what he had to go through to be who he is today. So what I'm going to do, we only have one microphone right now, and we're going to be switching microphones. So guys, you're going to have the questions come, and Mike will help you out with the questions. And I'm going to have Mike open it up before he talks with just playing. And we're going to have some pretty good camera angles. So I'm going to give it over to Mr. Mike Clark. And time to get down and get funky, guys. Here we go. Mike. Very good. Very good. Hey, Gary, can you write that out for us, please? Anyway, I'm going to give Mr. Mike the microphone. He's going to talk somewhat about like I said before, what he had to go through to get to where he is, all the hours of practicing, the teachers, the books, and of course his companies that endorse him. So here you go, Mike.
Okay. Okay. Hey, everybody. I'm getting my microphone clipped on here. Can you? Okay. I hope everybody can hear me. Is it working? Close enough? Okay. So I will speak and demonstrate whichever way you want me to go on whatever you think I'm qualified to talk about. I'll tell you my experience. First of all, before we go too far, I want to thank Istanbul Cymbals, Innovative Percussion Sticks, DW Drums, and Evans Heads, and of course the great Matt Patella for having me out here this afternoon, at which we're going to do this video and have some fun, and then I'm going to have an Italian dinner, and this I want. Okay.
All right, so there's really no questions right now, but you keep talking if you'd like. But I'd like to start it off.
Please do.
Let's go back to your first days of drumming. How old were you when you started, Mike? You got to say the question.
Okay, Matt had just asked me my age when I started playing. I was 4 or 5 when I started. My father was a drummer, and there was always a drum set and jazz records around the house. So even before I could walk, I was hearing the music, and one day, I guess when I was 4 or 5, I went over to the drum set and just started playing. At that point, my father heard me play, and I played something like this. And after he heard that, he immediately took me downtown to where his friends were playing in a jazz band, and I played Sweet Georgia Brown with a band and got house. Hence, here I am. That's what happened. And I've been playing ever since.
That's really good, man. You started without a teacher first, just having a whole lot of fun. Then you got really serious. And first of all, you're originally from what, the West Coast?
West Coast, Sacramento. I was born in Sacramento,
okay,
yes.
And your first teacher and the books that he started you with, and on the drum pad, and how he gave you the motivation and lighten your passion, or put your passion back on fire.
Well, I actually didn't have a lesson until I was a professional. I was about 22 years old, and I didn't know how to read. So I went to a guy in Oakland. By then I lived in Oakland, California, and I went to a guy named Bill Naraki, who was a great drummer and a great teacher, and he taught me how to read. And after working with him for 6 or 8 months out of the books, I worked modern syncopations, the straight system books. I don't know if any of you guys know of those 6/8 books, 2/4, this and that. He asked me, do you think you're ready to go on a gig and read music? And I'd been working for a long time with Vince Guaraldi and quite a few people, so I had been on the road already touring and stuff, and I had read some trumpet parts and stuff, but I wasn't really reading them. I was memorizing them at rehearsals and then staring at the page pretending to read. So I told him, yeah, I'm ready. So that night he invited me to the Circle Star Theater where he was doing the Jimmy Durante show, and I just came as a guest, and he said, okay, I want you to play the first show. And I was terrified. But I did it, and it was okay. I don't remember any real train wrecks, and I made sure that I made the endings. But I did pretty good, if I remember correctly.
That's interesting, Mike. The name of your first teacher, what was his name again?
Bill Naraki, and he lives in Oakland, California.
He's
still alive. He was from Chicago, and he was not only a great reader and a great teacher, but he was a great drummer. He could really play, this guy. It was great, wonderful.
Okay, we got a question here. It says, I saw a video of Zorro called The Commandments of R&B Drumming. And in this he was talking about, he does one-handed 16ths on the hi-hat, that he doesn't recommend accenting the hi-hat pattern. The one just plays a smooth and continuous. He said it kills the funk feel. Do you have anything to add to that? No, you're playing one EM, two EM, three, or just one EM to two EM?
Well, no, I don't really. I was just asked that. I guess Zorro said don't put any accents on the hi-hat while playing 16th note funk. My feeling on that is I'm sure his point of view, he knows what he's talking about. I'd have to see the book and see what he wrote, but I do it like seasoning a stew. I don't, for one thing, I never carry straight 16ths like all the way through. I do it more like you're adding salt and pepper and you know, I'm staring into this camera. I suppose I could look into, and I'm looking. Oh, okay, so so I'm more like. So my thing, that way it's not bland. It's not like, or. You know, so I don't think at this point, I never go like, I do a lot of breaking. I don't know whether that answered your question, but I would not play straight anything ever. This is me, so I'm not really arguing with his point of view, but this is my point of view.
Well, you know, they all have different approaches and different exercises, but the actual music's going to dictate to you what you're playing. You know, you don't play straight, you know, you mix it up a little bit, you get funky. That's why you have that nickname, Godfather of Funk. So, you know, being that he's talking about funk and breaking up 16ths, let's talk about some linear concepts and your publication, for that matter. And,
okay.
You know, how you developed, where you came from to develop to that point. I hope they can hear me.
Yeah, Mr. Vitella had just asked me about the linear funk thing. And I'm one of the guys that kind of is well known for that style. So it does happen to be right here in this book of mine. You can get through Hal Leonard, Innovative Grooves and Advanced Concepts. It gives the story of how I arrived at these conclusions I did. But I can, and it's got all kinds of my funk beats from the Headhunters and different records. Okay.
Okay, well, you know, Mike, everybody associates you to being a funk drummer, but in reality, you're more of a straight-ahead player.
Yeah, I started playing when I was a child in the early 50s. I was born in 1946, so there was no funky. We played jazz. I played at the beginning Dixieland jazz, big band jazz in grade school. We had big bands. So everything I did was associated with swing or the ride beat. And I never, now I did funk gigs in the 60s, Wilson Pickett, James Brown, all of these great artists became very popular. And so in order to make a living, I started doing gigs in that vein. And so when we started, it was very basic that the beats were like. Something like that. Later on, I started thinking about playing. I was just at home goofing around in the drum room, and I was thinking, or paradiddle. I added 2 notes with a bass drum this time, but I just started working with millions of these combinations were coming to my mind, and this thing that Elvin Jones used to play, I thought, why not slow this down and have this conversation be concerning the hi-hat, snare drum, and bass drum. So this is when I started all this. So I don't know, my brain just started spitting out tons of patterns like that during that time period. And Paul Jackson, who was my dear friend and the bass player, also, and a bass player, and a great bass player, the thing he was playing went along with this, and so we got very popular in the Bay Area. This led us to Herbie Hancock. But from playing jazz, I sort of here's how I look at it. I took the stuff I got from Philly Joe Jones, Elvin, Tony, Roy Haynes, Art Blakey. Before that, Gene Krupa, Buddy Rich, Zutty Singleton, Sonny Payne, you know, Tootie Heath, Billy Higgins. I could go on with this forever. And Max Roach, and sort of made a funky thing out of it so that I wasn't really addressing this type of language. I just put it over here. The triplet thing that I heard Roy and Elvin. I put over here. So by the time I got with Herbie Hancock, I'd been playing like this for a while. Whenever I did a funk gig, where when there was a singer, I'd play it real straight. I'd be like. But if there was any blowing or improvising, I would try these schemes. I used to incorporate the floor tom. And when the music was very progressive and there was time for me to move forward, to move the band forward, I came out of a bag like this, which really came from this. Okay.
That's nice, Mike. You know, the drum community is a pretty small community, and there are so many nice guys out there that want to go forward and want to learn, but terminology gets very confused in this mix because things sort of change and misinformation. What I like to talk about is the term fills. And, you know, like, can you do for me, Mike, fill number 95? I know, Mike, I got to go there. You know, let's talk about that, you know. Very few people talk about the music itself and establishing your own voice. You know, you learn the technique, you have your own tools to play the tune the way Mike Clark plays it, or the way I play it, or Joe plays it, or whatever. And these cover tune things, everybody's trying to be like somebody else as opposed to getting their own voice. Now, the terms really confuse the mix. So give us your take on what, you know, the term fill, the term groove, you know, like who can make you groove, who can teach you a groove, you know, stuff like this.
Okay, in case you guys didn't hear, Matt just asked me about a couple of things. Some of the terms such as fills, groove, and also having your own voice in the music, not just copying the latest guy or whoever's popular or whatever the situation is. So at the point when nobody used the words drum fills in those days. You'd be playing usually a chart with a band, and you would have what we used to call a lead-in. Nobody would say, or sometimes it would say fill in on a chart. That meant to play, usually what it meant to me in those days was to play a setup or an idea, the one you wanted, and you usually didn't have a fill in mind. You just played the drums the way you played to the music. So you didn't have like a certain fill. Later on, I think when funky music got popular and people in the 70s when fusion came in, there were drum sounds, there were drum heads that designated a certain understanding. The old white-coated heads like I used from the jazz experience kind of went out of style, and black dot heads and pinstriped and this and that to get, you know, a certain sound. So there all of a sudden a drum sound started appearing, and everybody sounded like they were playing the same drum kit for a while. I mean, I didn't hate it, but it did sound like everybody had kind of a similar understanding. It was like a craze or a fad. But the word drum fill came out of that experience, and fill, then you would go back and listen to some of the ideas that drummers played, like Motown drummers played, and these became known as fills, drum fills. And then there became many popular drum fills, and so the word drum fill just became part of the language. So you would see this in charts instead of a lead-in or a setup, or instead of saying play something out front, it would become a drum fill. So that became part of the terminology that usually meant usually what it meant in a studio situation was a simple type fill to set up the band for a singer or something, you know. It could actually, now that word has become more expansive because so much time has gone by since it became popular. The same with drum sounds. When I first started recording, we would take a bebop drum kit out of a car, take it in the studio, they put mics on it, you tune it up the way you liked it and play it. And now there's different heads, different sticks, different ways to get sounds in the studio. All of these things became popular. That wasn't there when I first started. Even when I first started with Herbie Hancock, it was just starting to appear. Now, as far as having your own voice, I'm from that time period when you borrowed a little from this one, a little bit from Charles Persip, a little bit from Mickey Roker, you steal a little few ideas from Tony Williams, you throw it in a pot and you put it all together, and there's the gumbo. And your sound or your feeling or your style is the roux of the gumbo. That's at the bottom, not another guy's, because you're not that other person. You can't play his life. But when I was in Herbie Hancock's band, I guess I was 25 years old, he heard me trying to imitate some of the great drummers of our time. And he said, no, wait a minute. Don't do that. Please play like you. I want to hear you. I already know Elvin Jones and Tony Williams and Jack DeJohnette. I know these people. I could call them for the date, or whoever the guy I was trying to sort of pattern my thing after. He said, I want to hear you. So I immediately started just being myself in front of the microphones. And of course, this thing I'd been kind of coming up with a long time, this style, that didn't hurt because there wasn't a lot of guys doing that. I had my own way. I didn't get that from, I did get it from a lineage. I got it from years of listening to all the jazz drummers, but I also listened to all of the James Brown drummers. I listened to Bernard Purdie, of course, Clyde Jabot, Melvin Parker, Clayton Filial, and all of the soul drummers. I used to like soul music in the car radio. I didn't like rock and roll. I've never played a real rock and roll gig. I always played funk, soul, jazz, blues, something like this. You know, I never have played an open hi-hat. Well, I played open hi-hat, but I've never done a rock and roll gig. I don't know if I'm proud of that, but I don't really have any experience playing that music, so I never liked rock. I've just learned to start liking it a little bit now, a little bit. I'm kind of not real open-minded. I don't know why. I just like what I like, and that's what it is. So, okay.
All right, well, we got a question here from Dylan.
All right, Dylan.
He goes, hey, Mike, I saw you play at Jimmy Mack's, is it, in Portland, and you blew his mind. All right, it was a real pleasure meeting you. I've been listening to your CD, Actual Proof. There was a song called Bacon Fat, is it?
Bacon Fat.
Okay. You start by playing a groove and then go into this crazy fast part when the trumpet is playing. How do you count that kind of thing?
Okay, I was just asked about a tune called Bacon Fat that I recorded on one of my records called Actual Proof, and how I go from one section to another. Do I count? When I'm reading music, I count, because if I don't, I have a tendency to get lost in the chart, and pretty soon, and you don't want to do that, especially in a big band. So when I was learning to read music, I counted, so I would know where I am in the beat, and so I could read the music correctly. When I'm playing a piece that I know very well, like a standard tune or a blues or something, I don't count. I don't have to. It's internalized. I've been doing this for a long time. So I just feel it. And of course, if the band is going into a new section and we're making a record, I don't really, we're probably not improvising that section. I probably know it's there, and so I'm laying for it. I'm going to do something different in each section to make, otherwise why have, if I'm going to play the same thing through the whole tune, there's no reason to have different sections. So, yeah, I'm not counting when I play music that I know. When I'm reading music, though, I count so that I don't, because my responsibility is to the band, so I don't want to be 15 bars behind the band and I need to set up a horn or a brass figure and I'm not anywhere near where the band is. It's not the kind of, I'm playing drums for the music, not for the drums. I don't remember what we did, but I do remember it was a shuffle. So I would say we were probably somewhere in here. But I don't, I'm not bragging here, but I've played, I don't want to sound insincere because I'm not, but I can't remember what we did on that piece, but I know that I wasn't counting.
Well, let's go back to that counting thing. You know, I happen to agree with you. When you're on a gig and you internalize the tune, you've been doing it for quite some time, there's no really need to count it. The pulse is there. But when students are learning something or learning something new, I think it's essential for them to count, understand it, until they reach a certain point. I've been on gigs, man, I didn't remember, I don't know the tune. So I would count 4 measures or 8 measures, to at least give them the lead in. Once the song went around a couple times, then I got it.
Right.
But I think it's very essential to count in the beginning, to establish some sort of formation.
Yeah, in case you guys didn't get that, I'm re-saying what Matt said. Matt was saying he thinks in the beginning it's extremely important to count, and I agree. 100%. There's nothing I can add to it. That pretty much nailed it. At the beginning, you should count, and there's even times now when I'm not reading, if something is very, very difficult or there's polyrhythms, when I have to count. So count. You don't want to just be the kind of artist that you're not able to count. You're just all heart and yeah. I mean, that would be great, but in the real world, there's going to be times when you got to count stuff out. It's mathematically impossible not to. So you need, if you're at the beginning of your career or at the beginning of your lessons, please learn to count right away. That will stay with you a lifetime, and you'll be very happy you did. Trust me on this.
All right, well, let's talk about a couple things here. The groove. When somebody says to you, I'm going to teach you the groove, do you agree with that? That some person could teach you, or is it the music that teaches you?
I was just asked, can somebody teach you the groove, or is it the music that dictates the groove? Well, first of all, I'd say it's the music always that dictates what groove you're going to use, or the groove. I think somebody can show you some patterns and talk about how to groove and give you some information that will help you to make the music more funky if that's your desire, or to season it more. So the more information you have about grooving, because, you know, like African music was all, I believe, most of it, if not all of it, was all hand-me-downs, like speaking to each other, you know, like a transmit. It wasn't written, you know. So, but at the end of the day, it's you that has to teach yourself to groove, and you need to know enough about it. So when the music calls for certain grooves, you can play an appropriate groove and hold that groove. I think experience is a great teacher in grooving, and listening to others. I used to hear drummers live, hear bands live, not just drummers, and I would observe how they were holding things together and what they were doing to make it funky or make it greasy, or some people don't like that. That's not their ideal. So if somebody wants it to be real clean, there's a million ways to do this. But I think grooving is something you got to learn by playing with people a lot. It's not just drumming in the practice room. That helps to get your hands together and to get your concept together so that you have something prepared when you go out to play with people. But playing live with the band, for me, is where I learned to groove. I could talk about it till the cows come home, but until I actually experienced it, that's what did it for me. So my groove is fairly substantial just from doing it all in a lifetime.
Another thing too, Mike, about the music. You know, drummers just talk about how fast they can be, or what kind of bass drum you use, or kick drum, or whatever. Nobody actually talks about concept. The straight ahead, 32 measure tune or 12 bar blues. When you're put on a spot to play a 32 bar tune, you usually know it. And the process, can you explain the process of the standard of it going on stage?
Yeah, I think that it's important, first of all, for everybody to know song forms. 32 bars, blues 12 bars, blues can be 16 bars, or even if one of your friends writes a strange 7.3 bar tune, you know, you should know how to play the form of the tune. So when you go on stage with the band and you play with guys, if they ask the drummer to take a chorus or two choruses, you don't have to count the band back in or play some obvious setup that's not what's really going in the direction you're going with your solo. So you really need to understand the AABA concept, or whatever, where the bridge is, where the A section is. You know, is there an extension at the end of the tune going out the door? Is there some extra bars, whatever, so that you can play the right amount of space, so that you can play for the right amount of time and set the band back up so they know when to come back in. I kind of do it both. I play the right amount of bars. After a while, you learn enough standard tunes where you can internalize it and you don't have to count after a while. And then, if I'm playing a new tune that I don't really know and I know how long the tune is, I can get it pretty quickly from years of experience of reading music or interpreting somebody's music. So that I know the form. You must understand the form of the tune if you're going to blow over it, if you're going to improvise. It's not really kosher to just start playing a drum solo and just play for 5 minutes and scream 1, 2, 3, 4 for the band to come back in. You know, you actually have to know what you're doing, which is an art. It is. It's and being graceful with it. I mean.
You have another question about foot technique. What kind of foot technique do you use? You know, you use the heel down, flat-footed, heel up. It depends, right?
Yes. Talking about bass drum technique, do I play with my heel down or my heel up? And Matt just said it depends, and that's exactly right. It depends. I learned to play with my heel down, so I don't have a problem doing it. Now, if I'm playing with huge amplifiers and monitors and everything is really loud and everything is overemphasized, and I don't really care for music like that, but I have to make a living, so I have to do it. If I do, I don't play with my heel down. I need more power. At any time I need more power, I lift my heel up. I don't feel a bit guilty about doing whatever I have to do in order to make the music sound right. It's the same with sticks, like holding your stick. Like if I'm like, and I want to get to my technique, I can hold my stick down closer, and my hands feel better. But when I'm playing funk and when I'm playing jazz, I hold my stick more, I choke up on it more to the middle. You know, but when I'm playing funk and I have my hand like this, my backbeat doesn't feel right, so I move back like this. It just feels better. So I don't feel guilty about it. It looks better like this. But when I'm playing a backbeat, I need that meat and potatoes. So I either use matched or I bring it back here more. I've talked to several great drummers who changed. They choked up on their stick more and they can play a good backbeat. I just can't get enough grease on it like that, so I just do what I have to do. It's the same with the foot. If I have my foot down, great. But if I have to pick it up to play louder, I do. I don't care. Okay.
Well, let's talk about your hand technique. I think your hands are great.
Thank you.
Especially the left hand. And what kind of exercises do you usually do? And how did you develop that with the finger thing and all that?
Well, I started playing double stroke rolls with a triplet in it. I was on a blues gig in Texas and we played a lot of shuffle. I needed a roll that was not too fast. Like if you play funk or blues and you play too fast with a double, you're like, to me it sounds tacky. So a double stroke roll with a triplet, a great drummer named Ray Torres, excuse me, showed this to me. And you can do a lot with it. And so I started, and then I used a lot of, there was an old marching exercise. Any kind of paradiddle or paradiddle. I started messing around with it, and I could play them fast, and it seemed like you're doing more than what's really there. In case you need to fill up a small space with a lot of notes. Sometimes in New York, it can't all be like real open. You got to play hard, sometimes fast and loud. So I started messing with that a lot, and then I started. I was playing a shuffle one day, and I thought, what if I straighten it out? So that's how the left hand thing with me started. I just straightened out a shuffle. Sorry. So it's not the finger technique like I think maybe Joe did. I started by sliding the finger out and back. And then I realized I could just turn my hand. So in essence, I'm doing this. I don't know whether you can see this. It's not much more than this. If I took the stick out, I'd be doing that. So I'm not playing every note. It's not that. It's not that. It's the... Then I started, it opened up this for triplets. You know, I'm just basically playing the back half of the triplet with my left hand and filling in with other stuff. But in a modern jazz context, It gives you some ideas to play, because some of the jazz music I play, you can't play like, you can't do that. You got to play some jagged, crazy ideas. The time won't even allow you to play in a more older bebop fashion. So you have to have the history under your hands of the older thing, like Max Rose. And also a more modern approach. Did I go off the track?
No, you were
I might have forgot the question. Yeah, yeah.
We got a question from Charlie.
Okay.
About a live recording that you did with Herbie Hancock. Hamelon, I think it is. Is that the word?
Chameleon.
Chameleon, I'm sorry. And you said you were playing something like on the or the wait a minute, the of one. He wants to know if that was your idea, Herbie's or Harvey Mason's idea.
Well, the question is, I was playing the and or the of one. Was that Herbie's idea, my idea, or Harvey Mason's idea? I don't know how Harvey Mason got into this, but he's a friend of mine. I love Harvey Mason, so don't worry about that. But no, during the time period that I was in the Mad Laboratory with this kind of funk drumming. There was millions of grooves were coming up, and to go, see, how did I do this? It's been a long time. I don't know, I've been doing that since the 60s, so I don't know whether I don't think I came up with it, but it's been around for a long time, so that's the reason I did it. It just seemed, a lot of these things, Clyde Stubblefield showed me this beat. I can't make it feel like he does, but he was playing something like this. I'll never be able to do it like Clyde, but I watched him do it, so I think that's something like that. But anyway, so there was a lot of this type of thing going on at the time. Things had moved from, I'll start at the beginning. Things were like this when I first came into the funk scene. And then the first guy I ever heard do this was Philia, Clayton Philia with James Brown. To me, he was a pap cat. I remember learning that. I thought I'd never be able to do that. How can you go? But then I heard these other guys making the 16th note sound like a tambourine part. The tempos were kind of faster. So there was a lot of places in those days also, you didn't want to start on one and end on one. It was where you didn't play, that made it more funky. We'd play fills like. That was the idea. Instead of we would always try to make things land and start in a different place. So this interested Herbie Hancock because he was this extreme, developed jazz musician. So he didn't want to hear, like. At least not in his band. So putting the beat on the and or the or the or the up or the down. We put it in so many places. We were always trying to find something like this to do. So I was one of the guys that was at the beginning of that. I don't think I made it up, but it just seemed like, what I'm saying is, things go in a certain direction, and if you have a little bit of vision, even a little bit, you can see where things are going. So I was already on this type of thing of where to put the backbeats anywhere but the 2 and 4. I'd already had a lifetime of playing 2 and 4. I'm not against it, especially if somebody's going to give me some nice money on the 2 and 4, on the 1, but like that.
You got a waiting list of questions here.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Okay.
All right. Gary from Australia wants to know, that finger thing that you're doing with the left hand, you have an approach to it playing matched as opposed to traditional?
Okay, Gary just asked me about the one-handed thing. Do I have it in the right approach to it for match? No, is the answer, but I would assume that it works the same in both hands. So it would look like this to the camera. And if you play match grip, I would assume that you just do that in both hands. I don't have it together with a match grip like that. I've never thought it necessary for me to develop that. But if you're a match grip drummer, I would say the right hand has to look like the left hand, and you just do whatever you're doing with the right. If you have this, then you do with the left.
Okay, Mal from Mexico City says, can you recommend some literature that you think a drummer should have? The history of the funk, the jazz. Is there any literature you recommend?
I read books about Charlie Parker. I read books about blues, and I read books about Coltrane. I read Miles Davis's book. There's a lot of books about blues, several books about rhythm and blues. I don't know the names of these books. It's been a long time since I've read these books. We just go online and look for the history of rhythm and blues, or maybe the history of R&B and jazz in New Orleans. Maybe what happened in Motown in Detroit, if you're talking, maybe the Mississippi Delta type blues stuff. Maybe find out all you can about Albert King, B.B. King, Albert Collins, Muddy Waters, the Chicago thing, Chess Records. You could read about this. Howlin' Wolf, find out what all those guys did. And it's interesting. I haven't read about each and every one of them, but I've read a lot about some of them and their lives and what they went through and where the music came from, how they came about it and why they did what they did and made the choices that they did. I read mostly about jazz musicians more than, but I did read a lot of books about several, not a lot, books about rhythm and blues and these different artists. Little Milton Campbell, Little Johnny Taylor, Johnny Otis, Little Willie John. Find out who these people are and what they did and why they did it. And it's a wealth of, I mean, that's a lifetime study right there I'm asking you to do. Anyway.
The other question is there anything in particular you do as a warm-up before a gig?
Well, I was just asked about, do I warm up before a gig, and the answer is yes, but all I do now, I'm from playing this. So playing the ride beat so much, I've developed some kind of tennis elbow, drum elbow, overuse syndrome, whatever you want to call it, tendonitis. So I warm up with slow doubles. I try to keep this part of the hand open so I'm not gripping tight in the right hand. And I keep the stick open like that. And that way I have the fingers moving and the hand moving, so when I go up to play, I don't clench and grip tight, and everything's loose. And I have to do this now, or my arm swells up here, but now that I'm talking about the ride beat, let me talk about this ride beat a little bit. I've said this at a million clinics, and that I always try to lift this ride beat up and make it dance. Because the ride beat, to me, is a triplet and is 6/8, but at the same time, it's a quarter note. I don't know how somehow my brain has made it both of these things. So when I swing, I try to dig fairly deep, and I make this quarter note dance. It's like I'm picking a piece of it up and tearing it out of there. So even if I'm playing modern, I always try to swing hard and keep that quarter note pulse moving. I don't exactly turn my stick in a circle, but I'm digging down. So it works for me. Because I don't like to hear swing music played without a good blues-based, rich quarter note feeling. Like, I don't like... It's too flat-footed and it don't swing for me. It doesn't swing. So I'd rather have some meat and potatoes on the thing, and that's how I learned to do it, was by making it a rhythm, not a mental exercise. It's it.
There's another question here. Where did it go? The Rust album?
What is it?
Reese
Oh, yeah. Okay.
wants to demonstrate the groove again. That's it?
That's it, yeah.
All right. And I got some feedback myself. I got to write this all down for everybody.
Okay.
Hello.
Yeah. Great.
Anyway, you want to play a little bit, Mike?
Yeah, let me play some.
Give me the microphone, and I'm going to talk a little bit.
Okay.
Anything more to say about your projects that you're working on? Yeah.
Here. Thank you. I have besides the video I'm making today with Matt, I have a couple of videos concerning funk and jazz out on mymasterclass.com. Go there and you can see some of my stuff. I have this book that I've had out for quite a few years, Funk Drumming. This would be me, Hal Leonard. Let's see, I have a new record coming out with the Wolf and Clark Expedition. This is Michael Wolf and myself on Random Act Record. And we have a new jazz record coming out in September, which is going to sell millions, more than the Beatles. I'm going to be rich. It's going to be beautiful. And this has Wallace Roney, Haley Niswanger, myself, Michael Wolf, and Christian McBride. I'm trying to think, Daryl Johns, the great young bass player. Sorry, Daryl, I love you, bro. And there's a lot of originals, a lot of standard tunes, reharmonized, different time feels, all kinds of stuff. A lot of drum solos because I'm a co-leader. I know you're going to love that. I have a record coming out later on the same label called Live at the Iridium in New York, and that features Christian McBride, Randy Brecker, Donald Harrison, the great pianist Antonio Farao from Italy, who's brilliant, and Rob Dixon, a great tenor saxophone player. So I'm not sure if Mr. Roney Wallace is on a couple of those cuts. I'm not sure. I think maybe not. I can't remember because we haven't mixed it yet. But that'll be coming out also later on in the year. Let's see what else I got going on. You can get a hold of me on my Facebook page or through Matt. Or you can go to MikeClarkMusic.com, my website, which is kind of in shambles right now, but I have to redo everything and blah, blah. It's been a big pain. But you can contact me there if you want private lessons. I'd be glad to hook you up on the stuff that I do, my personal style and blah, blah, blah. Let's see, what else have I got going on? I just finished about 3 months of solid touring in Europe. I'm still... I'm working on a CD project for Tony Adamo with the Headhunters backing him up. We're not really backing him up. That doesn't sound right. The guys in the Headhunters would be mad. We're not backing anybody up. So with the Headhunters featuring Tony Adamo, I'm not sure, or Tony Adamo and the Headhunters. And I also have a Headhunters record coming out next year, and the Headhunters are still touring together, and this band usually features Donald Harrison, Bill Summers, and myself. That ought to get it. Okay, give me the mic. Yeah, all right. Okay. I think I'm going to play a little bit. Oh, I forgot the brushes. Maybe I should play some brushes, huh?
If you want, yeah. Yeah, go ahead, play some brushes, Mike.
All right.
I'll get you on some different angles.
Okay.
Any way you want it.
Okay.
Very nice, Mr. Mike. Very nice. Yay, hey, Mike. Very nice. We have just one more question if you want to answer it.
Okay.
If not, we'll close it up. He says, when you're playing funk, Ed's clapping. When you play funk, do you mainly hit the rim shots on the backbeats or go between rim shots and the snare head? Now, before you answer that, can we establish the fact of the backbeat? Is the backbeat always 2 and 4? Or is it moved around like you explained before? It depends on the music, and you're fooling around with thousands of these things. But I guess, to get effect, you want the rim shot or you want the lesser meat on the head. It depends on the effect that you want. So would you like to?
I would. Yes. Okay, that's a great question. And here's my version of this. Do we have any moon gel here close by or handy that I can, just to change the sound of the snare slightly for this? Yeah, it's okay. The answer would be sometimes I was taught to hit like this with a rim shot. And I was also taught to kind of, if you will, hold down on the stick for a nanosecond after I hit it, So I use a lot of the stick, the shoulder of the stick. And I can dig in like that, even on the more sophisticated. Sorry. And also on the shuffles, dig in. So once again, I was taught to kind of dig in on that head. Now, there's other times when that's not cool, and if you're in the studio, you may have to hit in the center. But live, a lot of times, I feel I need this, and I was taught that way. But I've learned everything in between. What I don't care for is like a limp, non-funky, non-strong, non-grease-soaked backbeat like this. To me, that doesn't have any lifeblood, the lifeblood of the blues in it, or any real funk. This states the case. And also, when you play a backbeat like that, I don't worry where the bass player, I want to unite with the bass player, and I'm gotten really good at finding the center of his beat. But if the guy is incompetent, dragging, or not able to stay in the pocket, this takes care of the, is he behind me, is he in front of me? Who cares? I mean, basically we do. But with a backbeat like that, you're the boss, because at the end of the day, the people are going to come to you, the drummer, for the responsibility of the time. So a guy showed this to me when I was playing with Albert King when I was a kid. I was quite young, and we were playing a shuffle, and I didn't have this. And he said, this guy told me to hold down. His way of putting it was mash down on it for a second after you hit it. So when I play shuffles, I can play shuffles where I use the center of the drum. And not the backbeat with the rim shot. But at the end of the day, live, I like the rim shot because live, not so much, I mean, and in the studio as well, but it depends. Sometimes it depends on how the music is going that you're playing. Sometimes a rim shot would be too much. but for a shuffle or a funk. Feels better. So use common sense, but at the end of the day live, I suggest this for your backbeat. Like maybe I've gone too far. In this explanation, I probably could have done in one sentence, but there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. And with that, I'm going to get my Italian dinner. Thank you so much, Matt. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mike.
Great drummer Matt Patella here brought me all the way out here today to do this for you guys. We've had a great time. On the way out the door, if there's any more questions and Matt feels like hearing me, hasn't got tired of hearing me, then I'll answer them. Thank you so much. All right. That was fun. Thank you, Matt.
Okay, guys, that does it for today. I really appreciate Mike and all his good information. I hope this has helped everyone out. I'm sure it has. And remember, no lesson coming this Monday. I'm taking a day off, well deserved, trust me. Will we be back on Wednesday, 1 p.m. And for the newer guys that are in this chat room at the moment, you should check out the 2-week trial membership. And I think that Mike, I always like Mike the way he plays. He makes a great presentation, and I thought it was really, really nice of him to come all the way from New York City to give his time up to do this and to help everybody out. So with that being said, I'm going to need to sign off. And if there's any more questions, man, just, give me a shout. I'll stay on for a couple of seconds or whatever, and if there are any more questions, I'll try to answer them. I'm going to count to 10 at 1:20. 1, 2. I'm only kidding, guys. All right, you guys have a good weekend. No lesson Monday. We'll be back on Wednesday, 1 p.m. So have a good day.